At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the 9th Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee meeting on January 15th at 5:32 p.m. And I guess we're going to start with anyone that would like to come and address the committee with any comments. And please note that public comments cannot be addressed at this time because it's not on the agenda. And each speaker will get 3 minutes, which will be timed by John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager. And I have a couple of cards up here. I'll read those off, and if there's anybody else, we'll see if we can get you in. Okay, we're going to start with Carol Stilley.
Hi, I'm Carol Stilley, and I've been a resident of Arlington for 35 years. I am here advocating for a sustainable Arlington. Important elements are clean air, clean and abundant water, zero waste, green spaces, and caring for our residents and environment in a warming world. Regarding the first point, clean air. Last summer, my husband was driving from Mansfield on 360. When he gets to Arlington, there was a big electronic sign displaying orange air quality alert, stay indoors, for all to see. Not good for our health, and as a city, what would a visitor think? The major cause of poor air quality is pollution from burning fossil fuels. Transitioning quickly to clean, renewable energy because it gives us clean air must be a part of our plan. Net zero goals have been set by our DFW neighbors, Dallas, Denton, DFW Airport, Love Field, and UTA. We are all part of the same metroplex, and as the country's 50th large city, we can make an impact. We must develop our net zero goal. Now, to achieve clean air, the City of Arlington should lead by example for residents and Arlington businesses. Actions we can take: 1, install solar panels or purchase renewable energy plans for all city buildings, and then provide financial incentives for residents and businesses to do the same. 2, transition city vehicles to EV and establish EV charging stations, then promote our city's charging stations to all. 3, engage AISD and UTA. Meghna Tare, UTA's Chief Sustainability Officer, is globally recognized and has recently authored the FIFA 2026 Sustainability Plan. She would be a great resource. Use the HANA Neighborhood Plan as a resource. I read it, it was great. It had a sustainability section with 5 pages of great actions, followed by a 6-page Parks and Green Spaces section, also with great actions. Clean air is just one of many actions we can take to become sustainable Arlington. In the vision framework, there is a sustainability and healthy section. Where are we on the development of the sustainability plan? This would be a great way to continue to talk about Innovate Arlington to my neighbors and get them excited and engaged. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Mark Cooper.
Good evening. My name's Mark Cooper. I'm the general counsel of the MEI Companies. It's a local Arlington founded company that employs over 400 of your friends and neighbors in this city. And I'm here actually in my capacity as a private citizen, not general counsel for MEI. I've done work with this group now for a little while, which its genesis comes from Pope Francis's Laudato initiative that was adopted a couple of years before his death. And I'm here just to support them and to encourage, to the extent it's possible, that you all consider sustainability as we go through and develop the remainder of the 99 square miles of this community. Arlington has actually been a great example of encouraging sustainable development. You have Viridian up on the north side of town, which was an Audubon Sanctuary Award winner. You have your Parks and Recreation Department that supports several award-winning initiatives in parks and recreation. And you also have the Tree City Award for the urban forestry that this community has won several years, and it's something I think the city probably needs to publicize a little bit more, because as the city goes, the amount of urban forestry in this community is really something that kind of separates it from others. Encouraging sustainability is difficult in your position because you're limited by what the legislature did last session with the density regulations. It's also limited by the city charter and its ordinances, but you can be an example for growth and development in a sustainable way. The initiative here in downtown Arlington on walkability, I think, is equally applicable as you look at the plan going forward for other areas as they develop. And I think addressing the needs of the younger population, which we're trying to keep here. We're not succeeding as well as we should, but we have 43,000 students down here at UTA, and creating these multi-use developments that create walkable environments and environments where residential and cutting-edge businesses are mixed, like we're seeing developed out in Mansfield, and everything will be important. So thanks for your time tonight, and I know you have a hard job ahead of you, so I appreciate all the efforts that you've made in this process, and what you'll do end up finishing it.
Thank you for taking the time to come in and speak to us. Do we have anyone else that doesn't have a green card that wants to speak this evening? All right, we'll move on. At this time, John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager, will provide updates and reintroduce consultants from MIG.
All right. John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of 2026. Happy to see everyone here. We have a loaded meeting for y'all today with our consultants, Jay Rankins, Principal in Charge from MIG, as well as Ellie Schaefer from MIG as well. Next slide. So this is our agenda tonight. As I mentioned, it's jam-packed. We have a lot of great material specifically related to our preferred growth scenario map, taking those 3 maps that we saw back in November, all of the public feedback that we received, as well as the feedback from y'all, and consolidating that into one preferred map. So we're going to take a look at that with y'all tonight as we're gearing up for our March engagement. We're also going to be discussing or continuing our discussion on big moves and innovations, as well as highlighting our communities at risk and life cycles overlays, which is also at your place. That's going to be a very interesting component of Innovate Arlington. And then I'll discuss future meeting dates and confirm with y'all if we need to discuss any additional items on future dates. So project updates. We're working in phase 3 right now, as I mentioned, gearing up for our March public engagement. We'll have more social media materials that y'all will be able to help us share out as we get closer to our March and April dates and where we will be located. As you can see here on our overall timeline, we're just wrapping up all of our information from phase 2 and summarizing that. And gearing up for, as I've mentioned again, the phase 3 review and adoption period. So looking forward to this and all the materials that are ahead of us. All right.
All right. At this time, I'd like to invite Ellie Schaefer with MIG, who will open our discussion this evening with an overview of the preliminary preferred growth scenario.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having us virtually. Like John said, this is a big thing we want to talk about with you tonight. We did all of that hard work, with the board game and the community engagement to form those alternative scenario maps, and then did some additional engagement and worked with you all to help refine feedback into a preferred scenario map. So what we have tonight is a preliminary version of that. We want to get your feedback on, and then we'll be working on refining that coming out of this meeting before sharing with the public for more input in March. So not your only chance to weigh in on this. You may have seen that John also sent an interactive version of the map and dashboard with a lot of great information to you ahead of this meeting. You'll also have a couple of weeks after this to take a closer look as well. So just a quick reminder, the colors on the map that you're seeing are our 12 place types. We've talked about these in depth, so I won't spend too much time on them right now. But that's kind of the palette that we're using in our preferred scenario maps. So those range from different types of neighborhoods, mixed use places, more commercially or employment focused areas, and regional open space. Just a quick recap of the scenario alternatives that we did look at. So the first one we called business as usual. If you recall, that was based primarily on current zoning across the city. And the other input to that was already adopted future land use plans that exist in certain parts of the city. So that's sort of the direction through place types that we would see Arlington go based on what's currently on the books today, if you will. Scenario 2, then we called connected corridors. So this one used more of those dense urban corridor place types and neighborhood nodes to really increase access to amenities across the city and increase capacity for housing and jobs to meet those expected growth needs. And then the third scenario we called the urban core network. So this sort of consolidated that same approximate level of growth into larger centers. So more application of the mixed use center place type, employment districts, and entertainment cultural districts. So scenario 3 was more of like large centers, and scenario 2 was smaller centers with connecting corridors. What we heard from the community as we shared that around and from you all, overall, we heard pretty clear feedback that people really liked scenario 2, and in fact, really liked it more than the other scenarios as well for most of the city. There's an image on my map or on my slide here. On the bottom right, you can see all those like green and orange stickers on the right side. So that was from one meeting. A lot of people saying that they like or really like this scenario 2, which was again the smaller neighborhood nodes and the dense urban corridors connecting across the city. There were parts of the city where other scenarios were preferred more. So in particular, Northeast Arlington had some areas where the urban core network, scenario 3, was more desired, and scenario 1, business as usual, was well liked north in Viridian and then down in Southwest Arlington as well. So really what we did to start to get from these 3 options to our preliminary preferred scenario was sort of to piecemeal the different components and different mapping from these scenarios based on what folks liked best where. And then there was a lot of fine tuning from there, basically to get those to work well with each other. So, and also just to refine what we had on those maps to begin with. So some of what we did, ground truthing. So we were looking, what are the existing conditions a little bit more closely? What might be a realistic possibility, over the next 20 years based on what's on the ground today? We really tried to achieve thoughtful development transitions wherever we could, in particular between employment districts and neighborhoods. Where possible, we try to have some other place type as a transition between those two. We looked at that distributed access to amenities that was really popular from scenario 2. So trying to use those neighborhood nodes in places that made sense and keep that approach throughout the city, especially the southern half of Arlington where there's less access to like commercial and mixed use walkable destinations today. We wanted to use a consistent approach to community amenities and facilities throughout the city. So we have the regional open space place type, which we use on large regional trails or larger open spaces. But generally speaking, smaller parks are included in the different place types. So you won't necessarily see those called out as regional open space. Really, we consider those as well as schools, places of worship, things like that, as important parts of complete places. And that's part of the impetus for using place types rather than just land use, is that we're, looking at creating complete neighborhoods, complete destinations. So just a point of clarity there, if you're wondering why a certain park or school isn't a different place type, it's typically going to be included in what its surrounding place type is. And then we wanted to update this as much as we could to reflect any planned projects and developments that might be in the pipeline at the moment. And also try to connect those regional open spaces where there's greenways or floodplains to again reflect realities of potential development and just create that continuity for trails and open space across the city as much as possible. So the preliminary preferred scenario, you should have a printout of this in front of you for reference, but a few highlights that I'll point out. It accommodates the anticipated jobs and housing needs. In fact, we have a little extra wiggle room in there, if you will. It's really just showing all the potential for where we would like that growth to go. And so it would accommodate that broader need. There are, compared to what exists today and what business as usual would have looked like, we're looking at more mixed use places, complete neighborhoods, and sensitive transitions, like I talked about. We're directing future infill and redevelopment to vacant and underutilized land. So we factored in some data that's been done across the city to know which parcels are most likely to redevelop or have space for infill. So we're really focusing on those areas when we're giving, those jobs and housing takeoffs for new development. And then building up existing centers and corridors, really leaning into the assets that exist in Arlington and, trying to connect those to each other, as well as preserving established neighborhoods. So not encroaching on or redeveloping places where people live today and that, are not likely to change. A few stats from the map. So again, 38,000 potential jobs and 40,000 potential homes. So that's capacity for how much housing and jobs could be built. The majority of those homes are high density. Second most would be medium density, and then a little bit of capacity for additional low density as well. Based on the full build out, maximum would be 5 million daily trips. So that's a little bit higher than the business as usual. But again, it's because it's also accounting for more people than that was. So it does get down to 87% by vehicle and increases active transportation and transit to 11 and 2% respectively. In terms of the place types, these pie charts on the right, the top one is the business as usual distribution of place types. The bottom one is this preferred preliminary scenario. So generally, we're looking at a bit less of the mixed use center. That's because that place type has been sort of distributed more to more nuanced other place types. There's also less employment district, urban neighborhood, and commerce hub. So what we're seeing more of in the preferred scenario is going to be neighborhood node, like I said, trying to distribute those smaller mixed use places throughout the city, urban corridor, those denser connecting corridors, campus and innovation and creative districts, as well as entertainment, cultural destination, and even more estate suburban neighborhood. So kind of interesting to see those shifts in percentages a little bit. Overall, the downtown and regional open space place types are similar in overall percentage of the land. So that is a quick synopsis of the map, just so you have a little sense of what you're looking at, how we got there, where everything came from. So what we want to do now is hear from you guys and have everybody kind of group up into small groups and discuss the map. I think John has some, pens and sticky notes and whatnot. You can write your comments. A few questions we really want you to focus on. What do you like and dislike about it? What's jumping out at you? Are there changes that you would like to see? And or what questions do you have, whether that be about the map itself, the process, evaluation, how it's going to be used, any of that. So with that, I will pause and hand it back to John to coordinate in the room to get some small groups going for a discussion.
All right. Can everyone hear me? I believe we have 14 of us, so let's go ahead and split up into, what is that? Two groups of 4 and, no, not 4. 2 groups of 5 and a group of 4. So at each kind of side of our horseshoe here, I have sticky notes, and then be sure to grab your pencil and map and presentation if that's helpful as well. All right. As y'all are discussing, definitely be sure to kind of pick a speaker for your group that may help summarize what y'all have discussed, and then we'll also do the individual breakouts, or I'm not breakouts, but individual responses.
And John, do you want to do about 30 minutes or we can
Yes,
do less or more?
I'll set a
letting you know?
timer for 25 minutes and give everyone a 5-minute warning.
Great.
Hey, Ellie,
Yeah, John?
could you, on the presentation, go back to the preferred growth scenario map? We can see the blues a lot better on the screen than how it printed. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
there you go.
And for everyone in the room, understandably, the printer, kind of the blues look very similar for Employment Center and the Innovation Creative District. So if you are curious about which blue it is, I would refer to the screen. You can see them a lot clearer. The dark blue is going to be Employment Center, whereas that lighter blue teal color is going to be the Innovation Creative District.
I noticed, I guess one of those things is sort of, I know last week, both you and I both mentioned, you talked about PTO plans, but we both mentioned, yeah, getting not behind it, so I think I'll probably reiterate that again, see how, that because, you know, some of these have schools that are in certain corridors, some of them have schools that are located in the city and how that's what they're. The other thing I noticed is the stats, she said copy of the previous growth scenarios in my notes. I couldn't find it, but I feel like work got a lot more. But I might be just felt like there's a lot more.
This feels like a lot to me, way more than I would concede.
I just feel like there's still, a lot of these little intersections, and of course I don't know what's going on. There's some decent sized ones that, particularly in South Arlington, hopefully North Arlington, kind of on the outskirts that. I'm surprised like around Sutherland, around Kelly Elliott, why I'm surprised there's not more little. I like the neighborhood areas. Would be a great addition to some neighborhoods.
There are 4 churches in the road. So does that mean cultural residential? So that's a TARS. Then up on the side, added a neighborhood note at New York.
Or is that like where, is that
That tiny little dot.
interlock, total intersection, interlocking?
That's right there, and we're gonna.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just do a similar matrix like I did, and we'll just have a match. We can talk about it, I think it'd be easy packages.
In this case, that would be, it's not like
I can build a model so that we don't add too much.
No parking, so go to the sidewalk, walk.
Yeah, I was about to say we could create dots on the maps that are like gravity wells and say, 1,000 feet from this gravity well is going to be considered a core place type, and then match the polygon to say, hey, whatever most of this polygon is in based off of all of our physics, that's what they're assigned to. show those gravity wells on the map, as well. Okay, cool beans. Yeah.
No, those are all the residential. Right at the edge of the yellow that stops is residential.
Like the school zone on, south of River that's going to. It's that
How are you?
We're used to looking at these maps and there being some zoning. What the thing is that because the city church in Georgia would be its own. Various other. So this is less that. Right? So this is going to be. There's a reason. The reason for the church is that we're on campus.
Hey, y'all, I just wanted to give a 5-minute warning.
One of the things I think is point out. So Pioneer Parkway is the international parkway, right? There's two pieces of it. You have the historic development or cultural destination. But on either end, you have mixed use center. When I go to this, I walk around
Let's see. All right. That was a very quick 30 minutes, at least for me. Oh, does it? They do get pushed around a lot. All right. I think we filled a lot of sticky notes, had a lot of great questions. I heard a lot of good comments going around. On the sticky notes, after y'all read them aloud and discuss them, if you'll kind of just get them kind of in one place and leave them at the top of the table. I just don't want those to get lost. And I will grab those from y'all after the meeting. But I will hand it back over to Ellie and Jay to help us go through what all of y'all discussed.
Sure, thanks. All right, yeah, excited to hear what you guys think. Should we do some small group report outs? Maybe we'll start on my left. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys. Start on one side of the room, one of the groups, whoever wants to be your spokesperson. Tell us some of your kind of key things that you talked about, anything that jumped out, anything you want to share. And of course, we'll look at your more detailed comments as well.
Cool. I'm Zach Graves. So some of the questions and things that we wanted to point out. Get my map here. Question one, does the preferred growth plan include feedback or reflect UT Arlington's recent master planning that was done? So that's question one. Question two, we noticed that, obviously can't put everything on the map, but the smaller public schools of AISD and MISD that are on that we have in our city limits don't necessarily show up as little points on this map, but have we incorporated feedback from AISD on the changing landscape of schools and also how they would like to see the forms of the neighborhoods around those schools develop? So that's number two. Also curious on the map or on one of the stats, it said I think around like 11% was regional open space, and my assumption is that doesn't include those local small parks, right? The ones that are too small to show up. So I just wanted maybe some clarification on that. That doesn't include total park percentage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Another one was at the top north of the map, there's a very large employment district. I think it's the employment district, and which we know is the landfill. Obviously, a very large area, probably does have quite a few jobs, but I'm not sure it has. I think it's probably the largest employment center on here. When we were calculating how many jobs this plan produced, did we take into account that this employment district in particular is a pretty unique one and maybe wouldn't have the same density of jobs as other employment districts? So that was a question. Tierra Verde plan, I know that's in the southwest corner of Arlington, I believe. They've recently put out a plan that showed lower density, but the map seems to show it as a higher density form. General comment, am I going on the right speed? Is this good? General comment about the plan. We like that it calculates how much employment, calculates kind of the housing that would be developed, the population that could theoretically move here or work here. But we're curious of when in other parts of the plan or parts of our time together, we might discuss the implications of having all those people move here. How is that going to impact our transportation network? What kind of transportation updates might we need to recommend as part of one of these packages? How is that going to impact our air quality? How is that going to impact our water quality, our water usage? Are we just going to lay out a plan for development but not have strategies to handle that kind of development? General question. Let me see. Another one was, we noticed that the Masonic Lodge was, where's that? Was shown as a campus on the map. Just curious the reasoning behind that option. I guess technically today it is a campus, but I guess maybe this applies to others. Do we, if, places that maybe have room for redevelopment later, do we now just show them as they currently are? Or do we show them what we'd like them to be in the future, in case there is a redevelopment option there? If they don't redevelop, it is what it is, but if they do, should we not color that in an option that matches what we'd like it to be in the future? Let's see, along Pioneer Parkway, I believe we call this International Parkway. It was kind of interesting so we're looking at Pioneer Parkway between Cooper and 360. The kind of spine of that is this like light orange color, which is the Cultural Entertainment District. When we were looking at the place type binder, that showed as an area that transportation was featuring high volume roads and quick access, but it is capped and centered by mixed use development and these neighborhood nodes that prioritize walkability, and kind of the interesting interplay between having those three so close together. Was interested in maybe if we needed to relook at that, if that combination is really the right combination for that area. At the intersection of Cooper and 30, we show that currently as a commercial hub, and then mixed use. I think I'd be curious on maybe a place type that emphasized more walkability for a neighborhood like that, or an intersection like that. That's not an intersection that cars would easily go on and off of the highway, just the way that Lamar is built at that intersection. It seems like that instead would be a better development that would focus in on the neighborhood that immediately backs up to it, that is looking for an opportunity to visit that. So something more like an urban corridor or a neighborhood node. We also noticed, and I guess this is my last question, we were talking, this sort of maybe applies to the same thing about the Masonic Lodge area, but east of Dalworthington Gardens, there's another innovation zone, and we talked about some of the businesses that are at that area, and then we pointed out some other spots too. We'd just be curious, maybe some feedback on, again, how the city approaches looking at balancing the fact that there are existing businesses at a location and we want to code it as such, versus if that business or that area was to redevelop what we'd want it to develop instead. I know we don't want to ruffle too many feathers and we want people to remain and to be successful in their spot, but in case something did happen in a changing economy, did we make sure that we planned that it would be developed into something else in the future? Did I cover all that? There we go.
All right.
Great. Thank you. Really good comments. I was taking really good notes. There's a few that we could respond to now, if that's okay, John, unless you prefer to kind of go through all the groups.
I'll fill in the gaps.
Okay, sounds good. As for UTA master planning, which is I think your first comment, generally we use the campus place type for anything that is owned by UTA. I think there was maybe a few exceptions for residential or mixed use center near there, but yeah, we were primarily going off of their existing ownership patterns. So curious, yeah, we could take a closer look at that and see if that changes anything from campus.
Yeah, just a comment. I'm not sure if they've officially finalized that or not, but I have seen, it's not finalized, so I guess it's still a work in progress, but they have, they're pretty far along on it at this point.
Great. Yeah, that's good to know. We'll take a closer look at that. The smaller schools, you're right. Those are one of those amenities that we do just kind of fold into the surrounding place type. So, for example, an elementary school in a neighborhood would just be coded the same as that neighborhood, just considering it, an important part of a neighborhood to have schools embedded in it. There's certainly we could consider doing like some extra layers on top that calls out some of those key assets and amenities or something like that. But that's been our approach so far, as kind of using a complete place type approach to put those facilities in the surrounding place type. So yeah, the small local parks are not included as regional open space. Same thing, those are embedded in their surrounding place type. And on that note, the Masonic Lodge as well. That one, yeah, it's a big property. So that one ended up with the campus designation, but in response to how we're mapping when something is a little bit different on the ground today there, or where we have Innovation Creative District mapped, it's definitely meant to be a vision. So it's meant to be realistic, realistic potential if that property were to redevelop, but we're using this map to help guide what that development, what the community would like to see on different parts of the city if it were to change in the future. So by no means like saying, what's on the ground today has to go and this has to come in right now. It's more like if it were to change, providing that guidance for that. Um, Let me think what else you had. The landfill, I think, is a great point. For now, we've just used an average density. When we define the place types, we give a pretty good range as to what the density for jobs and housing units might be in those different place types. It can vary quite a bit. John and I were talking about taking a closer look at the different transects that we've put. If you recall those graphics that show like long, I don't know if you have them in your binder, but show like elevation drawings of the place types. We've kind of broken those into core, transition, and edge sections. And, it might be lower density at the edge or higher density at the core. So we have not applied that yet to the map, but that's certainly something that we're thinking about moving forward to capture stuff like that. And that's certainly a unique case there. Oh, yeah, the plan will certainly not just be a plan for growth with nothing associated with it. You'll see that when we get to our next meeting, we should have this. There's going to be a lot of policies in the plan, and we're actually going to talk about the big moves in the next section of our meeting today. But there's going to be a lot of supporting policies and recommendations that really describe how to accommodate all this growth and make sure it benefits Arlington and what's needed to support it, whether that be, parks and open space, air quality impacts, like you said, connectivity and transportation improvements to help move everybody around. So certainly part of the comprehensive plan is to touch on not just the envisioned place types, but also all the other systems across the city that would need to be thought about in conjunction with that growth. Let me think. Jay, did you have any others jump out at you? Okay.
Oh, I think you covered it.
Okay. John, anything else on
Yeah.
those?
So I know there's been some conversations about meeting with AISD and bringing them in potentially. So we will work with that, and certainly am looking forward to and thankful for those who have kind of offered to help create that connection for us. So we'll definitely have more input from them, and hopefully also have them assist with us on some engagement opportunities. Related to the landfill metrics, if y'all go back to the dashboard, the landfill on the job projections wouldn't have been included because it's currently a developed piece of property. So those job projections that you're seeing would not include that particular property, similar to GM in most of the Great Southwest Industrial District. We can definitely, and I'm sure there's more comments on the international corridor, but yeah, we'll definitely be very interested in understanding kind of the vision that y'all have for that and how we might be able to massage that area a little bit more. So I'm sure there are two other groups here will have more to say on that. And then,
And then, John, on that one, I would say it may be adjustments to the place type that are needed. Because I do think theoretically those should be compatible, right? Like those designations along that corridor. So the fact that the place types are reading as very auto-oriented, or that particular place, the orange designation, I think that's something we'd probably want to course correct on.
okay, yeah. Probably show something that's more culturally sensitive.
Yep.
And then on UTA, we're we've been communicating with UTA a lot in this process. I just recently met with Dr. Lukmana to have 2 classes of his actually begin supporting us on some efforts related to Innovate Arlington, specifically sustainability. One of his classes will really look into the vision elements that we're working with on sustainable and healthy after spring break. And so I'm hoping that the materials that will also be peer reviewed, that the students are created by the staff there and the professors at UTA would also be something that the committee is very interested in reviewing. So very excited to see that. But we can certainly, with our relationship with Mr. John Hall, kind of show him what it is that is kind of planned for the periphery of UTA to ensure that that's in line with the UTA master plan as they're finalizing that.
Okay, I guess it's my turn, Taylor Oldroyd. We'll start with our likes and then dislikes and then questions, but I do want to reiterate what Zach said about once this plan gets going a little bit more, maybe a specific discussion with current property owners so they're not surprised on certain things. Because certainly they might have a different vision than kind of what the public and this process goes through. So we do want to emphasize that current property owners should be brought in to the discussion. Okay, now on to our likes. We liked a lot of the urban corridor areas, especially near the airport and along Cooper Street. That kind of leads to probably our biggest dislike or concern is that there probably needs to be more of that along 360 and 20 and 30 and maybe even 287. So this either urban corridor or the commercial hubs, something with more commercial uses along those main thoroughfares. There's a lot of this estate suburban neighborhood still along the main thoroughfare. So we're just a little bit surprised there wasn't more either red or pink or whatever that is. And then some questions. As was mentioned, the international corridor probably needs a little bit more sprinkling of the innovative creative district flavor to it. And we even talked about sprinkling the innovative and creative district in the entertainment district and the cultural district. So, because I mean, there's already like Spark and some other innovative hubs, incubator type things kind of in there. So I don't know how you put that on the map, but there's already some of those uses in that. So there's a way to sprinkle it in there. One of the questions we had is, what about a multimodal center to increase transportation? What area were we talking about doing that in? Victoria, do you recall? Along the entertainment district and some of the main corridors. One question I have too is there's a current opportunity zone in Arlington. I don't think we have highlighted that, and maybe we should utilize that tool already as a way to spur some redevelopment in that area, because we do have that one opportunity zone that's kind of near 360. I don't know exactly what the north-south is, so that was a question I had, is that current opportunity zone designation might be able to be utilized a little bit more. Group, I'm trying to think. I think that might be everything we had. Yeah, they covered a lot of stuff. So with that.
Thanks, great feedback. I don't have any specific follow-ups, I don't think, on that. You gave us a lot of good ideas to look more closely at.
Hello, Jeremy Sidmore here with the last group. Some things to think about, we've already talked about, that we thought about the map just aesthetically. It's hard to read with the different coloration. I know it's the printer issue, but also for ADA compliance, maybe there's some members are colorblind. Makes it very difficult to read. Another thing we would like to see with this, when we were looking at it, would be the same map, but with the business as usual, about the same size, so we could actually compare and contrast a little more. The other issue we were looking at was when we're looking at the map, just as one of the public and seeing the green spaces just about equal, we are wondering about, are we adding any green space to account for our population growth? I know a lot of the smaller parks are not on the map, but we don't see any additional green space besides maybe 1 or 2% that it shows on the pie chart. Another issue we might see coming up with this map is in our urban corridors. We are wondering about traffic, and some of these places already, especially like on Cooper, it's some of our bigger traffic issues. And are we accounting for added growth, and how much more traffic is that going to increase on those corridors? And we also mentioned the dump as well. But thank you for answering that before.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thank you for the comment on color blindness. We'll definitely see if we can make higher contrast, use better colors for that. I think that on our web map, we could definitely add the business as usual as a layer that you could flip on and off. So if you're taking a closer look, you can compare and contrast more easily. So happy to do that. As for green space, as of now, we have not intentionally added a lot more. We are limited to kind of mapping those on publicly owned property for the most part. We could coordinate with the Parks and Rec department more closely and see if they have any opportunities to expand the green space. Arlington does have a pretty large number of parks, so it may be more about improving the parks to kind of increase the capacity of potential users in those parks and serve more folks rather than expanding acreage. But that's definitely something we can take a closer look at.
I would also say that this and the quantification focuses on the regional open space. So on the parks piece, I think Ellie maybe spoke to it in response to the first group, but the place types do set an expectation for additional park space, particularly for larger scale redevelopment. So the place types do build additional parks in. Obviously, if just a small parcel redeveloped, you wouldn't get a new park out of that. But if anyone aggregated parcels or a larger property were to redevelop, there would be an expectation that a park would be a part of that.
And maybe just one comment for anyone who else is also interested in the urban corridors. Since Senate Bill 840 and changes the state legislature, it's quite important and good governance for Arlington to explore the idea, this now entitled idea for urban corridors to now exist throughout Arlington. And so as these corridors may become developed, because again, this is a vision, not a promise that it's going to happen, it's critical for us to have strategies to understand that if this growth does happen, if an urban corridor begins to come into existence up and down Cooper, for instance, how are we going to satisfy the appetite and growth that occurs along Cooper to ensure that we don't have terrible congestion? As a reminder, that's one of the critical concerns that we learned in phase 1. So that will continue to be part of the ongoing policy discussion that we have. But again, I think it's just good governance, understanding what the state's objective is, that we try to figure out how we're going to address that if it does occur.
Great. All right. Thanks everyone so much for the feedback. Like I said earlier, we'd love if you want to take a closer look at the map, you can drop pins on it with your feedback. We can leave that open for a few weeks. And you've got that and the dashboard from John in your inbox. So not your last chance to weigh in, but certainly appreciate all these helpful comments right now. With that, let's move on to the next part of our meeting. I'm going to hand it over to Jay to run through the big moves.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Ellie. If you want to go to the next slide. So the big
We have a
moves.
question in the room, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that green space comments that have been made. And I really think it's important that you change a little bit of your strategy and maybe incorporate the Parks Master Plan as far as the walkability, the hike and bike plan and future map of the Parks Department. I think that will help to, one, show how much regional green space we have in the city as compared to the entire pie. And it would probably then reduce some of the percentages of the pie for the estate suburban, which right now it reflects about 50%, which is kind of, that's not a true depiction of what estate suburban percentage really is. I think by including all the little parks and the walkability, and maybe the villa webs, and maybe you even include the Encore land as a potential walkway, it will help us to show that we're trying to achieve our goal of walkability and connecting our communities. And I think that would be a good plus to show that here's a way that we can, we're working toward connecting the communities and the walkability of Arlington. So I'd like to see all that green space in there.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement. I think we can definitely include a map that reflects the Parks Master Plan and the Hike and Bike Plan. We could even overlay it on the place types map, but I think we also want to have a standalone place types map, as that is a requirement of the comprehensive plans in the state of Texas to have a future land use direction. And I just don't think we want to skew that, but we could we'll talk to John about whether or not it's a separate map or it's a map that, or both, I guess, a map that shows the parks on top of that as well. And we are working, just so you know, with Parks and Rec and with transportation on integrating not just the mapped features, but also the policy direction from those maps into the comprehensive plan as well. Thanks for the comment. And then there was a comment, I think, from the first group about policy too, kind of thinking about, okay, well, what are the implications of development? Is this plan only going to provide direction for development, or is it going to provide policy direction for all the things that come with development and all the things that are important to the city that are not necessarily kind of demonstrated through physical form? And so the answer is absolutely yes. Tonight is a kind of launching off point for that. We have solicited input on big moves before, sort of what you all think are big moves, big strategies, big policy directions. Tonight, we're going to go through using our framework with the 5 different vision elements, a preliminary set of big moves. We're also having, in parallel, conversations with different city departments and partners, going through the big moves and beginning to brainstorm those policies. So the next time you see this, it'll integrate input from you all, what we've heard from the community in the last round of input, because we did have some open-ended questions around policy direction, as well as input from the departments, and then advancing the policy kind of pieces of this as well. So what are the big moves specifically? Well, they are kind of those big ideas that are going to be used to organize then the policies. We will have place or opportunities for additional policies and strategies, or policies and recommendations, excuse me, called supporting strategies. But within each vision element, we want to have somewhere in the 4 to 7 range of big moves that are kind of guiding the ship when it comes to each of these vision elements. Next slide. So we'll step through each one, and hopefully, John, you can help, or Chair, you can help kind of call on folks in the room. We'll stay in a large group discussion for this. But if you remember, one of the vision elements is vibrant and safe. So Arlington is a great place to live. The residents are proud to call home, with beautiful neighborhoods, vibrant and fun gathering places, access to daily needs and amenities, and a variety of housing options. And we're putting forth 4 ideas for big moves. Again, we're going to have some discussion around this. Are these the correct big moves? Is anything missing? Are there ways to strengthen these? And then, of course, there will be policies and actions, right, sort of associated with them to ensure that we have sufficient direction moving forward to actually realize these big moves. So the first is update policy tools, such as overlay districts, development incentives, and flexible and/or adaptive zoning standards to remove barriers for small businesses and property owners reinvesting in underutilized sites. So the idea there is really looking at our regulatory framework, looking at other kind of red tape potentially, our perceived red tape, to ensure that we're removing as much of that as possible and incentivizing, if possible, reinvestment in places that are already developed in some way or underutilized. Implementing technologies to improve public safety and reduce congestion. So that's sort of the smart city idea here, but specifically applying that to public safety and congestion. So that would be dynamic signage in the case of congestion. It could be more information via, I don't know, an app, phones. It could be syncing the signals, all different things. We actually had a conversation with some of the folks in transportation engineering today. There's a lot of interesting things in the works already, and they're just saying that the technology is moving so fast that calling out a specific technology doesn't make sense necessarily in a 20-year plan, but we definitely want to tee that up and support that. And then in terms of public safety, we need to kind of dig deeper into that, but there's communities using all sorts of technology in terms of even predicting in some cases where crime may happen, but definitely tracking, surveilling, all that sort of thing. Strengthen community relations around policing and neighborhood partnerships to support visibility, prevention, and rapid response. And the 4th, expand opportunities to support and educate residents on reinvesting and upkeeping their homes, properties, and neighborhoods. So first of all, we'll definitely invite some additional ideas too around, kind of big moves. But first, just in response to these 4 that are hopefully in front of you and on the screen, what are initial thoughts? Are there any that people really want to underscore as being really essential and high priority, or any that you think maybe don't belong on the list?
Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor Oldred. Yeah, it seems that besides the policy tools, we need the political will to implement this. So I'm assuming that, Jay, you have a magic solution for that as well, and to remove any NIMBYism that we have in Arlington.
I do not have a magic tool for that.
Darn, I was maybe we should look at our contract with you guys then, because I'm kidding. But you clearly, obviously I think we're trending in the right direction, and regulatory changes will need to be made, but then it comes down to the political will to do some of this, and then the support of the community. So we'll obviously do what we can on both of those fronts, but I think you're on the right track.
Great, thank you.
Ken Cox. My comments would be flexibility and adaptive zoning standards in a simplified way for the small business and small developers. Sometimes you have an idea and it's presented, and it almost would work, but it can't work because of restrictions. And to make them work, it's a lot of, it's a pain point. And so if there was a magic wand that could have more flexibility and adaptive rule sets, for the small developers, and this would be, say, not enormous projects, but smaller developments, I think that could help make things happen a little quicker. Because, if you have an idea, if you want to build something in Arlington, boy, you sure better plan ahead. And then when you have to make changes because you don't have enough room on your property or you got a irregular lot or those things, that can almost cause things not to happen because it's too hard. So that's something that I would like to see if there were simple ways that's not reinventing everything, but making things a little more flexible, and that will really help, I think, the small business and small property owners. Okay? Nina.
Thank you, Ken. Nina Henderson. I think the Big Moves and Innovations list of 4 is brilliant. I love it. I think you have caught the spirit of who we are and where we are. I hear Ken's comment about sympathy for smaller developers, but at the same time, I think there's a way to accomplish that by designating these zones are non-negotiable and these zones are, and that would be a way to make things work. As a not born and raised in Arlington person, it is very obvious that there are sections where someone's will got their way and it didn't necessarily serve the higher good. I'm not calling anyone specifically out, but I think we have to have our core standards of this is non-negotiable. We have to do this with water. We have to do this with space utilization. We have to do this with green space and air and how we're going to take care of what we have so that whatever is developed will last very easily 70 to 100 years. I think we have the capacity for that now. And so my thinking is if we can make these policies happen, which I know that people will fight hard and furiously with lots of money, if we can stick to it and know where the wiggle room is. I love the form-based code that's coming, and so I think there's a way to do that with our upcoming policies. Specifically, I would love to hear from people who are on planning and zoning and what, or have been, and what they think about these big moves and innovations. Thank you.
All right, Victoria.
Victoria Formeyers. I guess there's a couple of my initial reaction to point 2 and point 4, 2 being the technologies to improve public safety and reduce congestion. The reduced congestion part, I really wanted to, I guess I'm kind of curious about how you're going to flush these out and not be repetitive to what we're already doing in the city. There's been a lot of work on Waze was an app that was already being utilized. There was already synchronization of lights. There's already been innovative sign usage. So I guess I'm looking for additional things that we need to do. We have congestion. We were talking about congestion on Matlock, on Cooper, on Bowen. I remember when I first moved here, everyone said, don't go to Cooper, go to Matlock or Bowen. Now you can't do that either. And so I think that we need to be a little bit, that multimodal, how are we going to interface that? That concerns me, especially with some of the overlaps in the place types you have, where there's a call for more higher density. Because that also leads to the other things in terms of services and quality of services we offer, including public safety as well as response times and those types of things that need to be accountable to. And then the other thing, I guess number 4, support and educate residents on reinvesting, keeping their homes, properties, and neighborhoods. There's been a lot of policy sets already around that as well. Again, I feel like we're gathering what is in place. Perhaps that is what's necessitated to do that. We have for example, a tool loaning program that's already happening. We have, we had to cut back because of budgetary constraints this year on sort of the neighborhood gatherings where people would come together to deal with code. Is that a call out for that? So I guess I'm looking for ways in which that we can not only account for what we're currently doing, but how do we call out additional, perhaps smart city ways of going at it. I understand not wanting to call out particular pieces or particular, I don't know, I'm losing words here, but particular ways of approaching it at this time, but ways in which we can be more innovative in that. And also, how can we really deal with that big issue of transportation and mobility? I'm not seeing, I guess I'm feeling a little bit left like we're where we are, and we still haven't answered that big question that's out there of how do we create that opportunities and where in which we can create the mobility. Again, going back to the parks comment earlier, going back to, articulating and maybe overlaying some of these pieces. That's my thoughts, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will get to the connected and walkable vision element too, which is specifically about how we move around the city. So it could be that this congestion one actually doesn't even belong right here. So we'll look at that, but definitely hearing you loud and clear.
Yes, we have a comment from Jeremy Skidmore.
Jeremy Sidmore here. I am just wondering, like, I'm looking at our big moves and innovations. You have 4 listed here, as well as that are supposed to be towards the goals that are also listed here. I'm wondering if the plan is going to have like a section for like how we are going to have evidence-based metrics to like actually see if we're reaching those goals. If there's like key performance indicators that we can have for each one of those goals per the big move in innovation.
We're definitely planning on having metrics. I don't know that we've decided yet, is it per goal, is it per big move, or is it kind of by vision element? But I don't know. Do you have a suggestion on that?
I do not.
Okay. Yeah, we will. We'll definitely keep you up to date as we figure that out.
Yes, Zach Graves. One more comment, please.
Zach Graves. Yeah, as I was looking at it, I was trying to figure out what I thought. Felt like maybe something was missing. And I think I agreed with you, Jay, that I'm not against reducing congestion, by all means. I wasn't sure how it fit exactly with vibrant and safe. Especially when looking at what the goals are in here. And then, the other thing, as I'm reading the goals, I'm interpreting this as the goals kind of lead to the big moves lead to the policy recommendations. But number 2 on goals is support placemaking initiatives in public and private gathering places that offer opportunities for community togetherness. And I'm not offering any solutions, but just felt like maybe the community togetherness aspect maybe was underrepresented in the big moves section. So.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same things I was reading them. So yeah, I think we'll definitely look at that.
And Jay and Ellie, I'm not sure if this is a good time to maybe explain how there are going to be big moves and innovations that are kind of expand more beyond just one vision element, and maybe what we're thinking as to how we might showcase those elements and big moves and innovations, especially if they do cover a variety of vision elements, that those may be more of a special circumstance that also deserves something special.
Yes, we've talked about a few options for that. We want to keep the plan organized and not repetitive. So even though certain things could fit in a couple of categories, we'll probably pick one place for, certain topics to live. That said, we've come up with a few ideas, which would be one, like using the vision element icons to indicate big moves that achieve goals from different vision elements. So, sprinkling those throughout, or highlighting any big moves that we think are like, I guess, really big or the biggest or something, the most cross-cutting, and maybe like including those at the front of the chapter or executive summary up front or priorities for implementation in towards the end of the plan. So definitely starting to think about those cross-cutting, most impactful big moves.
Great. Well, let's move on to the next vision element. If we have time, we can circle back and see if there's additional comments on any of them, but I want to make sure we get through all of them this time. So next is innovative and thriving. Obviously, the entire plan we want to be innovative, but this particular vision element is specifically highlighting innovation, and particularly thinking about sort of the economic and residential lens. So Arlington is a world-class city serving as a leader in innovation with thriving residents and businesses that contribute to a prosperous local economy. And we have six big moves in this draft that we were sharing with you all and with staff. First is develop a fiscal development plan for the city to pursue tax-based planning and reduce sales tax leakage. Grow a multi-generation talent industry alignment strategy with the full academic spectrum in corporations/industry clusters. That one definitely came from some of the suggestions from this group. Develop partnerships and programs for academic uplift that provide a repeatable pathway of employment for Arlington's lowest income residents. Leverage community centers and the public library system as maker hubs with workspaces, fabrication labs, and digital learning tools. Create programs and partnerships that position Arlington businesses at the forefront of innovation, strengthen operations, and develop talent for next generation industries. And the sixth and final, establish, plan, and market 3 distinct industry innovation districts in the Great Southwest Innovation District, Arlington Municipal Airport area, and downtown. So same question here. Well, questions. Any reactions to these 6? Anything you don't think should be on here? Anything that should be strengthened? And then ultimately anything that you think might be missing from the big moves in innovative and thriving?
No comments right now.
Okay. Well, then maybe on this one, since we didn't get to it on the first one, any thoughts on potential partnerships? In this particular case, I'm assuming the schools, UTA, since we have the one that's specifically around academics, but any other partnerships or partners that people would like to identify?
Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor Oldroyd. So one of the goals talks about retaining local talent, especially college kids, UTA graduates and stuff. But which of the big moves will help accomplish that the best? I'm not really seeing a next, because I think that's an absolutely untapped opportunity there. I mean, what do we have? 35,000 students at UTA? 40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a awesome potential. We talk about sales tax leakage here. What about brain leakage from the students, taking their good ideas and going somewhere else? So I think there's an opportunity there, and maybe there's a big move there as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think 5 and 6 would be sort of creating more opportunity, but it doesn't create the linkage directly. 2 probably comes the closest, but you're right, it probably could be strengthened to tie specifically to UTA. And I think you said brain leakage. I think Richard Florida calls it brain drain. So yeah, we want to avoid the brain drain as much as possible.
Yes, Mr. Siddiqui.
Aftab Siddiqui here. Thank you. I was wondering if you have taken into consideration that we have TCC also, the Tarrant County College, and maybe we can develop a program for the high school students also to get involved into some of the technological stuff.
Yeah, that is the idea with the full academic spectrum. That's kind of that idea, is that it's, I guess it could be even pre-K, but definitely including high school, and then, yeah, technical college, the university. But maybe we can call that out explicitly in the policy development.
Yeah, I just want to add something that came up in a conversation we had with city staff the other day is, having large corporations or businesses that have their headquarters or offices in Arlington, giving back to the community in some way. There was mention of one business that was sponsoring robotics teams for maybe it was middle schoolers. And that was just, I thought, a really great example of how you can start to build that academic industry alignment from even a young age.
Nina?
Yeah, I wonder if we call out like the pipeline more explicitly. So we're linking the pipeline of all the different academic institutions and industry in Arlington.
Nia Henderson, it sounds like a department. I don't know if that's within the city or combined with economic development or education or all of the above, but to me, a connection that I would have this conversation with would be Scott Parsonen because of all the different things that he's doing around, what is it, 1 million cups that he meets with at Spark and had connections with UTA. There's a person who's ideal for that opportunity within the city to come around some structure. When I lived in Australia, we had a town in Wollongong that had a university that was the #1 employer, and brain drain was their main focus. And they spent lots and lots and lots of money and didn't get very far, which was not a surprise to most of the citizens. But they never created an office with an initiative much like Troy Williams was our chief equity officer or whatever his role is now. I apologize for not knowing, but similar to just having someone that's their charge every day.
If I may.
That's my opinion. Thank you.
So we definitely.
Michael. This is Mike Talambus. You asked for partnerships. Obviously, we have one of the best Chamber of Commerce groups in the nation here in Arlington, the Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce. And I also work with them, but also I like the initiative that the city recently undertook to have industry-specific cohorts to help small businesses in that, whatever that particular industry is, whether it's financial or a restaurant, hospitality, or any other industry. They have a little gathering and a teaching mechanism to help grow those businesses in that particular industry and share knowledge. And that, I think, something along that line needs to continue.
Anyone else?
If I may. So we've definitely been including the economic development teams, particularly on this vision element, because it is very much in the innovation and thriving economy lens. Hayden Blackburn would certainly be a great example as to who on Marty Weeder's team in particular would really likely be heavily involved in the implementation of this particular framework. His title, in fact, is Innovation and Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So I imagine we will continue to work very closely with the ideas and that he has, as well as helping us. How are we going to implement these strategies and create all these pipelines and partnerships and working off of what he's already doing?
Great. Well, let's go to the next one, connected and walkable. So this is our transportation-specific vision element. Arlington's destinations are connected to neighborhoods with multimodal infrastructure that allows comfortable, safe, and convenient options for how residents and visitors get around. Multimodal, I think probably everyone in the committee knows this by now, but it's really addressing all the different ways that we get around. So walking, biking, transit, vehicular, as well as freight travel. And then emerging, obviously, is micromobility. So that would include, e-scooters and all things like that as well. We even had a discussion earlier today with staff around this vision element and the big moves. They were talking about gondolas. They're talking about vert ports and vert stops for vertical liftoff for different transportation vehicles. So they're really thinking, years ahead already, and sort of how this becomes even more multifaceted. So the 6 draft big moves here. First, create a citywide active transportation network that safely connects neighborhoods and destinations through a seamless multimodal infrastructure, mobility hubs, loop trails, major barrier crossings, and cooling corridors. Staff pointed out that the hike and bike plan really identifies a lot of this already. So maybe either targeted updates to that or maybe even focusing on specific corridors, things like that. But maybe weaving in more so that there is an existing hike and bike plan into big move number 1 was a suggestion from staff. Number 2, convert some downtown streets into pedestrian-oriented corridors, open to on-demand shuttles, bikes, and scooters. The feedback from staff on that one, since it's very fresh, since we had the conversation today, was don't limit it to downtown. That there's other places there where we should also be thinking about pedestrian-oriented corridors. Number 3, expand Arlington on demand and explore bus rapid transit along major thoroughfares. The feedback from staff on that one was thinking about the on-demand service. You can't really expand it geographically since it already covers all of Arlington. So thinking more about what do we mean by expanding it. And then bus rapid transit, there was a little reluctance to call out bus rapid transit specifically. The thought was that that may not necessarily be the right solution for Arlington. So more so, continuing to explore different enhanced transit options. Number 4, implement real-time traffic management systems, adaptive signals, and digital signage along major roadways. So this would be kind of that smart city technology. And it was one of the engineers specifically who was saying he'd be hesitant to call out any specific solutions. He'd prefer that we talk about continuing to push and innovate in that smart city realm and intelligent transportation systems. Number 5, in partnership with schools, offer free on-demand rides for primary and secondary school students traveling for school-related events. And number 6, revisit the potential feasibility of grade separating the railroad through downtown Arlington and/or adding more non-vehicular connections across the railroad. So staff pointed out that there is a pedestrian bridge being discussed right now that would cross the railroad in downtown. So could be the suggestion there was mainly that if that continues with the momentum that it has, that it could be low-hanging fruit and maybe a near-term win coming out of the comp plan. So this one there's 6 to begin with, and they're very meaty. So love any comments and thoughts folks have on these big moves.
Mr. Siddiqui.
Thank you very much. I do think that looking at Arlington, it's one of the largest cities without any mass transit. And it would be, I think, a good idea to have some kind of mass transit so that the mobility of people is increased, and many families who do not have 2 cars or 3 cars, their family members will be able to travel, work, do their grocery shopping, and it will have an economically multiplier effect. So I do think that there is a need for a mass transit system without going into any specifics here. But thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, Taylor Oldroyd. I think that transit-oriented development is economic development, and I think that I would hope we can emphasize a little bit more the need for transit, not necessarily mass transit, but I mean, there's talk about commuter rail or some kind of rail between Dallas and Fort Worth. And so there's going to be stops, and I hear it's along 30. So we should plan for and anticipate stops along there, and then maybe some other options along just some of the main areas. I think VIA is definitely innovative, and we're all about innovation in this group. So I think we should support that and maybe specifically mentioned in our discussion here, but economic development is a big focus of the city, and I think we should embrace transit-oriented development, and it will fit in nicely with some of these other hubs and overlays that we're talking about. So I think we should embrace it.
Yeah, great comments. And on the on-demand, well, on-demand is the rebranded version of VIA, so we are calling it out explicitly here. But
So regarding transportation, particularly mass transportation, as you can recall, several meetings ago, Alicia Winklebeck addressed our group, and she talked extensively about mass transit, bus transportation, and other transportation modes. Her comment, as I recall, was that mass transit would cost us about $37 million a year, and that would only buy us one train stop in North Arlington, which would not be really accessible to 2/3 of the city because it's impossible for anyone south of Pioneer Parkway to get up to the mass transit to take a train. So that is kind of prohibitive, and therefore you have 2/3 of the city paying taxes to finance a mass transit train that is uneconomical. And if you'll notice that many of the cities around Dallas are trying to pull out of that because it's just not working for them, for their citizens. So I'm glad that's not in our plan right now. You used the term enhanced transportation solutions. I would like to put that as a terminology in item number 3 instead of bus transit, because, once again, Alicia mentioned that running a bus up and down Cooper would probably take you hours to get from South Arlington to North Arlington on a bus. And the density is just not feasible to run buses up and down Arlington's major corridors at this time. And recently, the city just canceled its contract running a shuttle bus from UTA in downtown Arlington back to the TRE. I think we've tried that multiple times, trying to do that. It's just not working, so I don't know why we would want to continue to beat our heads against the wall trying to make a bus transit in Arlington to work. VIA works fine. It may need to be expanded to be more like Uber, where it comes to your house instead of just to the corner. But I think the VIA, the on-demand transportation, which is public transportation because it is paid for by the city of Arlington mostly, I think that's a very viable and unique situation for our public transportation situation. So enough on number 3. Number 5, I have comments on that. I'm not really sure why this is even in there. I don't see why we need to be providing free rides for school students to go to extracurricular activities. I mean, to me, if anybody, the school district should be providing that, or the private schools or the charter school, whoever this school is, they need to be providing those extracurricular free rides, and not the city. I mean, what does that mean even? I mean, does that mean if someone has a UIL concert in Austin, we're going to give them a free ride down to Austin and back? Or the wrestling team competition in Dallas, we're going to give them a free ride? So I don't think the city needs to be paying taxpayer funding for free school children rides. I just don't think there should be any free rides. So I think that whole number 5 needs to be struck from our big moves.
Nina.
Nina Henderson, I'll go straight to number 5, Michael, because I've been privy to what our school district pays for transportation, part of it because of the big, beautiful bill and what the requirements for equity are, and what we spend on transportation with our schools is significant. It's huge. And I think a partnership with AISD would benefit the city more than it would the schools, because that equipment is not moving all day, and it's moving a specific 3-hour window at the beginning and ending of the day, and what's it doing the rest of the time? So whether it's partnership branding and cost sharing, I think there's an opportunity there for money that's got to be spent anyway, because we're taking care of the kids. Well, what about the other people who move around in the middle of the day? So on conversation with, partnership with the schools, I think that's a two-way conversation because of just the fleet that they manage and how many different size and types of vehicles that they use. So I think that is one worth exploring and having a conversation. I don't know, but I think it's worth considering. Also, on modes of transportation, I haven't heard anyone say moving sidewalks at all. And moving sidewalks and escalators with elevator bays at the train crossings are opportunities, as well as safety and environmental concerns in our heavy congestion zones. We should not be stopping all that traffic in the entertainment district or at Cooper and Matlock, those major thoroughfares. Why aren't we moving people across the road and letting the traffic continue to flow and reduce the pedestrian versus vehicle incidents in those places? And so changing that, moving people across the road, yes, cover them, also move those escalators up and down. I see that all over the world because we're protecting people and we're protecting the environment and allowing traffic to flow. So if we can't put buses along our major thoroughfares, what's wrong with moving sidewalks? Because that allows mobility to wheelchairs and pedestrians and people of all ages. I mean, it's a beautiful picture seeing a grandmother hold her grandchild's hand as they go to an event at Theater Arlington. We can move through our city in multiple ways and plan those in stages where we have the most congestion. And if we do it now, things like Grand Prix of Arlington and World Cup and major concerts, we can change the way it feels in those areas and allow people to be in harmony with their environment. And all those beautiful cafe tables beside a major thoroughfare is still inviting, and it allows us to have those roads that are pedestrian friendly. That's just my 2 cents worth on all of that. Y'all have covered, I think, everything else from me. Thank you.
Other comments? Anyone? Yes. All right.
Just Anthony Powell, and a comment on the aspect of regional transportation, because I know under the goals, we talk about navigating within and connecting to the surrounding regions. But I think even if we don't get into the ideal specifics, something more in the big moves and innovations needs to be around the regional transportation, because there are different, perhaps creative ways that we can look at that. But I don't know that we've really supported the goal in terms of any detail in the big moves. And again, we can talk about the need to study the different options that might exist, but as we continue to grow, some aspect of moving people regionally into and out of Arlington for major sporting events and other international activities and things that are taking place is going to become a reality and a need. So how we do that, I guess we need to put in there. Thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
Zach Graves. I definitely echo the need for some emphasis on the regional transportation network and needing that to be included in the big moves and then in the policy recommendations. Also wanted to point out on number 3, expand Arlington's on-demand Explore bus rapid transit along major thoroughfares. I think this is an issue that I'm sure the planners in the room are very familiar with, and other people are as well, that one of the big issues that people run into when they're planning these transit developments is they decide we're going to have a bus route or we're going to have a train route, and then they make it work wherever it's supposed to go. But in reality, really what needs to happen is there needs to be a study and figure out, hey, what areas or what trips are being generated, what areas are we trying to connect, and then figuring out the modes that best fit that area. So I wouldn't want us to box ourselves in with bus rapid transit specifically. I am a supporter of Arlington making very explicit steps for transit-oriented development, but I think that would be something under policy and recommendations I'd like to see, is a funding of a multimodal plan to see what areas of the city, what areas can we connect to regional transportation, and then decide what kinds of modes fit those areas best, so that, again, we're using the resources that we have available to us to fit something well. To similar point, two areas that are, still relatively unconnected, in my opinion, and that the city has invested lots and lots of money in is the entertainment district and downtown itself. We've had tremendous growth in both areas, and yet there's this gap between the two, and we do not have a way to purposefully move people in between those two zones. It's not an efficient method to move between those. And as well, in the entertainment district, we don't really have we use what resource we have, but we don't have an innovative way to move people into our city to come to the stadiums and then to stick around and do anything else besides that. And as we see in the news, stadiums aren't here forever, right? If you're not building the infrastructure around them, people will leave. And so I think we need to be mindful of the fact that this is an opportunity to use the catalysts that we have to build something better that is going to be a little bit more lasting. So I would like to see that kind of specific things laid out in the policies, particularly kind of a plan to do a study later on. And then I did want to make a point about, in partnership with schools, the on-demand rides. I'm not sure exactly how that would purposely work out, but I think that goes back to vibrant and safe neighborhoods. We talked about community togetherness, bringing people together, and these are the sort of innovations that would do just that. So while we can talk about who would pay for it, I think these are the sorts of things that we need to actually bring people together to make that feel like their community is vibrant. It's a place that they want to live and that they're proud to be a part of. So,
Anyone else? Yeah, Victoria?
Just quickly, I couldn't underscore more. I really thought number 5 really did need to move in to vibrant and safe big moves. Again, that I really would love us to reconceptualize the vibrant and safe big moves, because I really don't think we have what we need here as of yet. And I think by moving out congestion and moving it more toward, like my earlier point about connected and walkable big moves, and then also figuring out more, I think, partnerships and some of these things we're connecting, interconnectedness, I think needs to go back up into vibrant, safe big moves. I just want to underscore that again, because I thought that was a great point, and that was getting along the lines of what I was trying to say earlier. Thank you.
All right. So just as we're transitioning to the next vision element, on that second to last comment, staff actually pointed out that they're hoping that they can tackle what they're kind of loosely calling a comprehensive transportation plan, because there's all the different plans out there that look at individual modes or a couple of modes, and to the point that was made, they would like to do a comprehensive look at that. So I think that could potentially, we'll have to kind of test it and see if the political will there, but maybe that becomes a big move in and of itself. Sustainable and healthy big moves. So Arlington plans for future resiliency, invests in sustainable infrastructure, prioritizes community health, and protects open spaces in the natural environment. Number 1, partner with healthcare providers, nonprofits, and fresh food markets to increase accessibility to medical appointments, mobile health, wellness opportunities, and food. Number 2, analyze walkable access to Arlington's parks and prioritize improvements that increase access to and a variety of recreation opportunities. Number 3, enforce vehicle idling laws and limit car access through high-demand recreation areas to improve air quality and safety. Number 4, incentivize and educate property owners to fix water leaks or implement water-efficient practices. 5, be known as the coolest city in Texas by mitigating urban heat impacts through strategies such as expanding shade, reducing impervious surfaces, and cool/green roofs. Number 6, construct a modern field house to deliver high-quality recreational services to residents while positioning the community as a premier destination for sports tourism. And 7, redevelop parks and recreation athletic fields with permeable artificial turf to enhance service delivery and sustainability.
Yes, Mr. Siddiqui.
Thank you. Aftab Siddiqui here. Well, all of these things are good, but we are talking about the sustainability. And as the first speaker here talked about Arlington establishing a net zero goal, like Dallas and many other cities. So maybe it is for the city of Arlington to really work on that so that we all know where we stand on our sustainability and net zero goal. Thank you.
Great comment. Thank you.
Ken Cox, what are the Texas vehicle idling laws? Anybody know?
I don't know them well on the top of my head, to be honest.
I've never heard of it, and so I had a question how that was enforcing a law that I don't know about. And I guess part of that was designing places or place types that people don't sit in their car and wait.
It's primarily for heavy-duty vehicles over 14,000 pounds, limiting idling to 5 consecutive minutes.
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking of, I live near Veridian Elementary School, and every morning there's, I don't know, can't even count the number of cars that just sit there and wait for their kid with the engine running, which is, if it's cold or if it's hot, we're in Texas, but that's a lot of idle time. And I know some people are wanting to be more green. So thank you for that information.
Yeah. It's also a deal, apparently illegal to leave your car running unattended. So that's the other piece.
Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Talambus again, and on that enforcing idling laws, yeah, I guess that's good, but I'm not so sure it really needs to be in this as a big move, but I'm not sure what this limit car access through high-demand recreation areas, I mean, I could see us going down a rabbit hole there, implementing something like New York City has, where we're charging tourists to come into the city. And I don't think that's the rabbit hole we want to go into by charging people to come into the city of Arlington just to limit the number of cars that are coming in there into our city. So I kind of question what's really the intent of that number 3 is and how that would particularly work. I don't know. So anyway, that's my comment on that one. Number 7, redevelopment parks and recreation. I mean, that's a great idea, but I don't know if it's major enough of a big move to warrant being on the list. Maybe it's just kind of a nice to do thing.
Yeah, it could be kind of dropped to a policy recommendation.
Yeah, something like that. And to construct a modern field house, I'm not sure what that does either. I'm not sure what the intent is or what that could accomplish and how that would help us to stay healthy or sustainable. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
On the field house idea?
Yes.
I don't know if it came from the steering committee or one of the public comments or a couple of public comments, but it was a specific suggestion to create a large indoor space that could accommodate tournaments and things like that. So we'll definitely note that, yeah, question whether that should be a big move or even a recommendation.
We have one more question.
Well, I want to just address idling laws and limiting car access and just a share on a personal experience this week. I was down by Lake Arlington and it was a beautiful day. It was not too hot. It was not too cold. And there were 9 cars in the park by Lake Arlington on the phone with their cars idling. I could hear the conversations and they were either talking or smoking something that I wasn't smoking. And I noticed that the more I go around to the public parks, it's not kids playing, it's not mom's cars parked and their kids in the park. It's people using that as a third place. And they're sitting in their cars because they don't want to be outside and having other people hear them. And to me, that's a communication campaign, not necessarily a physical structure, but it's about communicating what these places are for and what is appropriate behavior in these places. So I don't know how to fix that. That's just my experience this week. And about a modern field house, I think it's a brilliant idea. Where I used to live, there would be 4 of these in our community for the different sections, and it was a very vertical along the seaside. But there was a public pool at the seaside, and then there would be this great covered shelter where there were children's activities in the summer so that they wouldn't have to be so hot. Some of them would be concrete, some of them would be turf, but it was a public space, and you went to a website and you booked your group in, and it just had to be a named group. That was it could be Nina's best friends are using this space, or it could be all of the 5th grade from a specific place. But it was a brilliant way to keep kids active and safe and parents communicating. So I think that fits right into our vision statement, and not necessarily one big one, but appropriate size, like the new baseball batting cage that we have that people can utilize. But that's a very closed space and very hard to get into because it has great equipment. But just a covered space that looks like grass where kids can play and people can engage with picnic tables or whatever nearby, and also in the shade, gets us more acclimated to being outdoors and not in our cold, closed houses and alone. So I think those are brilliant ideas. Thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
Nina, I like that as well. I don't think that's what this is saying, especially in terms of sports tourism, where I guess I'm not really understanding what a field house would do for sports tourism, unless we're talking about like making Wimbledon or something, or a particular type of sport arena where we would get another, other people coming to from outside of Arlington. Where what I assume a field house generally is in a park for parks and recreation. For sports, that would be the patrons would be for people that are living in the community.
Okay,
That's just my 2 cents there.
any other comments?
Yeah, this is Joseph. In some ways, it seems like number 6, we've already achieved it with the Active Center on Green Oaks. Yeah, on Green Oaks. Of course, that's over 55, but then we have the Dottie Lynn Recreational Center in Woodland West and places like that. So I also share the concern about how the high-quality field house for recreational service to residents, how that ties into a premier destination for sports tourism. Over.
Yeah. I'll make a comment here. There might be a trend that we're seeing with sports and hotels and sports and accommodations. I believe there's a big project going on in Mansfield. I don't believe it's a single sport. It might be multiple sports, but they've got lodging. And certainly there's going to be a lot of development that's going to happen around that. So that may be a trend. If we look at, 10 years ago, you'd never heard of chicken and pickle for pickleball. And look at them now. They're thriving, and there's many copycats that are doing similar things. So maybe there could be something that could be for the community, but there could also be tournaments and bring other places here. It's just something to look at.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Was there one more comment?
Yeah, one
Sorry.
quick comment. Just I just wanted to piggyback on what you stated, Ken, as that's kind of been Mansfield's strategy, even with the field house being kind of a high-end type of field house that attracts basketball tournaments or large volleyball tournaments. So it becomes kind of a revenue-generating type of thing, but also can be used by the community during the week, as they have the 7, 8-year-olds playing basketball there from the local community. So that's kind of how I read it. But I know that's definitely a strategy that Mansfield, as I live right on that cusp, and I see a lot of those things going towards the Mansfield area as they're looking to attract those type of opportunities.
Yeah, the intent was definitely around youth sports, traveling teams, tournaments, things like that. And yeah, sort of that complementary locals can use it and you could host tournaments there. But we'll definitely talk with Parks and Rec and other staff around that as well, taking all these comments into account. Moving on to our last vision element, because there is one other quick presentation topic too. So welcoming community culture. Arlington welcomes a multicultural community that contributes to a rich local culture represented through community involvement, events, arts, and entertainment. Number one, promote the International Corridor as a regional destination for culture, food, and business. Number two, create an investment for art policy and council authorized appointed officials to help oversee public art and events in parks, public spaces, and capital projects. Number three, develop a multicultural arts center to provide gallery space, places for artists to create, and affordable performances, exhibitions, practice spaces for theater, symphony, dance, and visual arts groups. Number four, provide microgrants or toolkits for small-scale neighborhood events, pop-up block parties, and local art installations. Five, encourage Taste of Arlington, Oktoberfest, and other locally driven events that celebrate food, culture, and creativity at a neighborhood and citywide scale. And finally, six, enhance the aesthetic and branding at gateways and main entrances into Arlington and within Arlington to designate major destinations, corridors, and districts.
I'll comment on, this is Ken Cox. I will comment on number 6. If we just had really nice signage and entrances to the city on the major highways, which could be, 30, 20, 360, it's a lot of free advertising if you think about how much traffic goes by. And that's just, when they did the bridges on I-30 over in the entertainment district, when those bridges were redone, it made a tremendous difference on the look of Arlington. People used to drive by and they'd see Six Flags, and then they would just see these old bridges that were just ugly and needed to be, it just wasn't pretty at all. And so I would support anything that we can do to brand our city in a great way on those major corridors coming in.
Definitely.
Aftab Siddiqui here. Thank you very much. I do think that there are a lot of good ideas here. I especially like the idea of number one, promote the international corridor as a regional destination for culture, food, and businesses. I have seen that they have already set up some banners there in multiple languages to welcome people. And people who have seen that, they have commented positively on that. And there is such a multicultural kind of businesses at the international corridor, which is definitely helpful. And if we can really invest more on that corridor so that people start treating it as a destination, that will be great. And I do agree with most of the ideas here. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anthony Powell, just one other comment. Under the goal number 1, we talk about the history of Arlington, and I don't know that I see anything as it relates to the big moves and innovations to capture the history. And I think, combination of, we've got a lot of people that have moved to Arlington who don't understand or know the history. There are a few that, have grown up here and understand it, but doing that and providing that information to others, whether they're visiting or, relatively recent move, someone who's moved here, I think could be helpful. So I don't know what exactly that looks like, but something to help capture the Arlington history, I think would be good.
Yeah, we did have our staff discussion on this vision element, or the first staff discussion earlier this week with other departments, and that came about the idea that we need to hit historic preservation and the history of Arlington harder in the big moves, and then subsequent policies. And then also on number 4, while they agreed that those were all good things. They were saying that organizing the neighborhoods and actually sort of recognizing them and helping to kind of build capacity within neighborhoods so that it's easier to sort of mobilize and plug neighborhood representation into different city processes or solicit input feedback would be probably a more appropriate big move. And then number 4 could be like a supportive recommendation under that.
Can I respond too? One way of doing that is putting it under control of like the Multicultural Arts Center, and that like for instance, in Chicago, the Cultural Center there is the one that provides all the micro grants through to the smaller areas of Chicago for the arts.
Great.
And
Thank
then
you.
on number 6, I agree with the aesthetic branding quite a bit. And growing up in Southern California and driving on the 405, each city was responsible for how the cement barricades are lining each of the freeway. So if you could tell which city you were in by how the murals are created or how the cement is aesthetically made. So I don't know if that's possible here in Texas, or who controls the median or the sides of the freeways, but having some kind of aesthetic signature for Arlington on those might be a great way of really getting us noticed.
It is TxDOT jurisdiction still, but they do work with communities on kind of unique branding. So definitely a possibility.
Victoria Farmeyers. I want to go back to number 4 and the point you were making that staff brought up regarding it's the micro grants and toolkits. To me, that is like a sub part. In fact, we are already providing a lot of the toolkits and things that are happening there. I do agree with staff's comment, though, that we do need to build a more connected neighborhood representation throughout the city that will help us with communication, that will help us with, frankly, with development and putting this vision into place. And I think that's been a missing piece. There's been nascent opportunities. I know there's kind of a group that meets quarterly right now, but I think that's a big move I'd like to really see, because I think it also bleeds into the other areas we've discussed tonight, because they would be an avenue by which the plan itself could be moved forward in a collective, collaboratory way. So I just want to add to that.
Definitely agree.
Thank you, Nia Henderson. On specifically microgrants or toolkits, yeah, I know we are doing a lot of that, and it's not being taken up by lots of groups. I would love to suggest a council, one of the mayor's councils that meets, be the neighborhood heads to get together on a regular basis. Are they doing that? There's not uptake. Again, not uptake.
Yeah.
I will also add that creating gateways around specific cultures makes me hurt because I'm a realtor, and redlining and steering go against everything. We want people to live everywhere, not specifically in areas. And so that's a hard one, and it has to be really taken into consideration when that happens. I've had people in my car who wanted to live near Asian Times Square. They want to live right there, but there are not any homes available, and they want us to make that happen. And so that's a challenging part of creating these districts that goes kind of against what we're doing and being welcoming. So taking that carefully, treading lightly is important to me on that one. As far as Multicultural Arts Center for gallery space, places for artists to create affordable performances, exhibitions, in a few other countries I have seen community buildings or corporate buildings or just business buildings that didn't really do well. and the city took over the management of them and the uptake of them, and you could have dance performances there, you could have art exhibitions there. It was just a function of the city as opposed to building something new. It became an attraction, and on the way home, walking from school, people would go, "My art's in there, let's go look at it." To make it locally engaging, hyper-local engaging, and then it could go to a place like the Cavazos Center where they have opportunities there to make something more connected. That doesn't necessarily have to be AISD related because I know they hire out that space. So that's just some of my thinking off the top of my head as you read that, Jay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we can move on.
All right. John, did you want to just do a time check? I know we're at 8 o'clock.
So it is 8 o'clock. Does everyone have 15 minutes to discuss the overlays? I know we have that packet for y'all, and so I'd really like MIG to provide some context for y'all so that when you go home and read that material, it's not, what am I looking at? So 15 minutes just to quickly go over it? Okay. Thank y'all.
Great, thanks everyone. I will go through this pretty quick at a high level. So we just wanted to share about some additional mapping and analysis work that we have done. The purpose of these two overlays, they're called the life cycle overlay, or we're calling LCO for short, and the communities at risk overlay, or the CAR for short. So really, we wanted to do this mapping to add another level of depth to the place types that was starting to come up in our conversation earlier, that the place types might be almost too high level in some places and not show variation. So really, they can help us understand more about the trajectory of a place and the people in Arlington. I'll explain more about each of these, but they're giving us sort of some relative information across different parts of the city. So how we're using the subsectors, I think there's 16 of them across the city. So doing a comparison within Arlington. In terms of how we use these, we're not entirely sure how these are going to be used quite yet. They'll likely just be an additional tool for consideration that the city can use to implement different policies. That we don't anticipate necessarily using them to write the policies, more so as a supplemental resource for future city efforts. So I'll just give you a little bit of a description about the two different overlays. The first one, the life cycle overlay, it's focused on the variation in current conditions and recent trends. So looking specifically at the built environment across the city, infrastructure, investment, and maintenance. So these this overlay uses all the different factors on the right side of my slide here and ranks the subsectors in kind of divides them into these three categories: investment ready, which is where there's a general lack or decrease in public and private investment in the built environment. Stable, so where that's remained pretty consistent, that investment and population has been stable. And growing or improving. So areas where there's been a lot of investment in recent years. So the map of the life cycle overlay, the dark blue shows investment ready. So typically what we're seeing in those areas is aging buildings, vacancies. Those tend to fall sort of central and in southwest Arlington. The stable areas are gray, so that's going to show an area with really a mix of high and low scoring factors across southwest Arlington, central, kind of across the city. And then those growing or improving areas typically have populations that are increasing, high improvement values from assessor data, and lots of investment, public and private. So those we're seeing north, central, and a little bit of south Arlington as well. Those are the light blue. The other overlay is the communities at risk overlay. So this is really focused on who is living in changing areas of Arlington. It can be used as a tool to proactively strategize how to mitigate, unwanted impacts from growth in those places. So for this one, we have again a sort of a three part scoring system, high, medium, and low risk. And the way we've applied that is based on the number of factors that are met or meet a certain scoring threshold in each subsector. So those factors on the right are things like changes in cost, foreclosures, school closures, tenure, and then different demographic factors and income. Tenure being renters versus owners of homes. So this is really looking at, who might have less control or be more at risk of potential displacement as change occurs over time. So again, the high risk areas, those are largely east, northeast Arlington. Those are going to be the areas of like the most historically marginalized or vulnerable populations potentially. Medium risk is pretty distributed across the city and along I-20 on the south side of I-20. So those, met fewer of those factors, and low risk areas are going to be typically in Southwest and West Arlington. So we also want to look at the overlap between those areas. I've called out a few of these subsectors on the map. So the ones in red, 3A and 5B, so those were the areas with the least investment in recent years, and the highest risk populations potentially. The yellow area 4A is also low investment, but medium risk for displacement or other risks. And then 1C, which is circled in pink, that area is growing and improving, so changing rapidly, but also has those high risk communities potentially there. So I know this is a lot to digest. It's really kind of interesting to dig into. The report you have has more detail. We think that there's probably a lot of insights that can be drawn from this and should be considerations when implementing different policies, projects, and whatnot in the city. But what we wanted to ask you is, one, do you have any questions about the mapping or clarifying questions that you want me to touch on before you take a closer read? And then also, if you've thought about it yet, or you have thoughts right now, do you have concerns about this, and how would you like us to use it in the comp plan? So that's my very brief overview. Happy to take any questions or comments, and we can discuss further in the future, of course, as well too.
This is Anthony Powell. Just one observation, and I'm not sure what completely to make of it, but I guess the area 1C is kind of the entertainment district, the stadiums, et cetera, but it's identified as a high-risk area, if I'm reading this correctly. And so it may be surrounding areas, or how is it weighted in terms of the heart of the entertainment district versus other surrounding areas that make up 1C, or how did that designation come to be?
Yeah, so, and sorry, I couldn't hear you that well, but I heard you were asking about the entertainment district, how that was factored in. Yeah, so this is aggregated at a pretty high scale, so it's not super detailed, super specific. It would have been included, as part of that 1C area, which is, where we are seeing growth and investment, but the folks living in those areas are meeting some of those factors we looked at. So it's a little bit of a broader brush than specific properties.
I just think, excuse me, I just think it's an interesting observation, because we obviously focus so much of our attention and pride around the entertainment district, but we also need to be thinking and mindful of the fact that the surrounding area is such that, at least according to this approach, listed as still a high-risk area. It's one in transition, I guess, but, so anyway, just more of a comment than a
yeah, thank you.
Any answers per se. Thank you.
I have a couple of comments. So the first one, I was just wondering in general about the whole plan. We talked about adding houses through our plans, through our place types and everything. Are there any statistics in the data that show how many houses would be removed by certain place types? If you come in with a higher density place type that requires you to take out a bunch of single family houses, is that incorporated somehow is the housing just a net gain of housing, or is it, that was just one of my general thoughts is, how do we know how many houses we're actually losing when we upgrade to higher density place types? But also, the other question I had is, I guess this whole map is, you have a comment down there about anti-displacement strategies. What are you anticipating that to become as far as a policy or implementation? I mean, can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. So in response to your first comment, the housing numbers that were shared were based on vacant, underutilized parcels, and it was a key goal of our mapping efforts to not disturb existing established neighborhoods. So really intentionally not changing the place type where a lot of housing exists that, we wouldn't want to change. And also the other thing here is that the place types map is, a vision for if things were to change, but certainly not, we don't want to be communicating anything about like bulldozing any buildings or anything like that. It would still be up to private property discretion as to what the change may actually be in the future. The other question, I'm blanking on what your second question was now, off my head.
Around anti-displacement strategies.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a good question. Like, that's sort of one thing we wanted to talk to you all about. There's, it depends, like, also what's the political will for this type of strategy, and what does that look like? I think that's, we didn't want to just do broad anti-displacement strategies that weren't really customized. We wanted to understand, like, what are the actual risks facing the community. And so by digging into that communities at risk overlay, we can see what are those factors that are elevating certain areas in terms of what we're considering being at risk of displacement. So, there's a lot of different strategies there for residents and for businesses that some communities use to try to help people stay in place, especially if, costs are raising around them. I don't have specifics off the top of my head, but that's something we want to kind of gauge is what is the appetite for that type of policy in this plan.
Sometimes it's limiting tax increases, it's tax grants in certain cases. I think given the fiscal state, of Arlington, we'd probably try to come up with other strategies other than those. So in some cases, it's low interest loans, things like that people can improve their properties as their surrounding neighborhood may be improving as well, so they're not ultimately priced out.
Ken Cox, I'd like to make a comment on the entertainment district. Regarding that, there's not that many homes in the 2-mile radius around AT&T Stadium, which is the short-term rental zone. So what has happened is you had a lot of homes that were not torn down when AT&T was built. They just survived it. They were just outside of the demolition zone for the stadium. And those homes were inexpensive. The neighborhoods were, they were okay, but they were somewhat needing a shot in the arm. And when Arlington finally passed a short-term rental ordinance, over time, the home values are very expensive. And you can buy a similar sized property in another part of Arlington for much, much, much less than in that 2-mile radius. I'm wondering if that could be changing your data, because what I've seen is tremendous increase in the older homes that were built in the 60s, some in the 50s, are worth quite a bit of money because of the conversion to short-term rentals, and that's displaced some of the people that were renting those homes.
I think that actually tracks with the mapping. That's high risk, right? Like, because the property values have increased so quickly. For people who, if they've stayed in their homes, they probably have relatively lower incomes based on what you were saying. And then it's a growing and improving area. So I think that's an example of where the mapping actually is illustrating that story.
Nia Henderson, I have just comments. This is overwhelming and also a little bit hard to digest this information. It's a lot to take in. And how do we do this in this strategic plan, just in this short period of time that we're looking at so much changing, which makes our burden of responsibility pretty significant to me. And so it helped me relieve that burden a bit by cross-checking the LCO and CAR overlap with the additional information that John gave us that has the Table 1 LCO score breakdown by subsector with the 5 areas that are investment ready, which helps me not be so overwhelmed. Okay, this is where we can start, and this is our next section. And at the same time, I understand about that minimum displacement of citizens and businesses that are going to be affected by this. And so I am really trusting y'all, Mig, I'm really trusting y'all to give us some advice on how to tackle this, because this is what you do. Because this is a lot to take in, and I appreciate this work. This makes this first map that we've been struggling over make a lot more sense. So thank you for all that description. I appreciate it very much.
All right, we can continue now.
All right. Thanks so much for the comments there. That is the last thing we had. I'm going to pass it back to John to talk about future meeting dates and agenda items.
All right, I'll be real quick. We have our next meeting, a special meeting with Parks, Recreation, and Culture in 2 weeks on Wednesday, January 28th, if I'm correct. And I believe as of right now, we do have a quorum based on the doodle poll, and those who I have not heard from that won't be in attendance. Please let me know, though, if you won't be able to make that meeting. We anticipate it being an hour, no more than an hour and a half, just to help y'all meet our new director, the new alignment of Parks and Recreation, and with the new tack on of culture, what that means for them, their direction as currently directed by this change. So definitely really looking forward to that conversation, especially with how much we've been discussing parks and regional access and moving between different parks and reaching other areas of Arlington. So really looking forward to that conversation. MIG can certainly quickly give you a description of what we will be doing in February, but I just want to reiterate that the materials in front of y'all are still under review by y'all. So tonight was just to explore the information and data with y'all, but we're still certainly looking for that feedback. So the dashboard that I'll resend out has that comment section to continue giving us comments related to the map. Those are also going to be accessible by committee members. And then that is actually seen live by MIG. So definitely go back to that dashboard, zoom around it, check out all the information, give us any feedback on it that y'all would like. And then be sure to comment on the overlays as MIG has posed to y'all. I know we just gave certainly the report to y'all. Read through it, email me your thoughts, and we'll certainly get those to MIG as well. We have the one-on-ones with me and Jincy. We're currently preparing our list of February dates. Definitely utilize those. That's a great opportunity to continue to explore all the information that we are throwing at y'all. We completely understand that. So utilize that. Those can be virtual meetings. They don't have to be here in the office at City Hall. We want to make sure those are convenient for y'all, however we can make that so. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Ellie and Jay to maybe tell y'all about our next meetings, just at a high level, and then we'll get out of there. Last tidbit, I believe there are some Chick-fil-A boxes from a meeting that was taking place down the hall. We'll leave those right here at the media table for any of our steering committee members to take. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So just briefly, we are going to be working on refining the big moves and writing the draft policies based on your feedback as well as feedback from all the sessions we're doing with staff. When we come back to you in February, we are going to probably have a first crack at those done and be in the process of putting together the rest of the plan. So we will use that as sort of a working session to give you a first look at the plan contents as it starts to come together. And then come March, we're hoping to have more fully baked content for you to review, both of the preferred scenario and, again, the policies and big moves, which are a big component of the plan. We'll also be going to the public in March with those materials. So that'll be our second to last public engagement window for this effort. Once we have the full draft plan put together, we'll be sharing that with the public over the summer. And of course with you all ahead of that as well. So yeah, we're starting to enter phase 3 of this comprehensive plan update. We're really excited to kind of see everyone's hard work start to come together and get the plan document drafted. Thanks so much for your continued involvement in this process and the wonderful comments. Super helpful as always. And we look forward to getting more feedback from you over the next few weeks on what we shared today. So with that, we will let you go. Thanks for staying late and sorry for eating into your evening. Enjoy the Chick-fil-A.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all. Future meeting dates, did we discuss those? The 19th?
Yes, the
And the
future meeting
12th of
dates.
March?
Yes, February
Okay,
19th.
we got that.
March 12th, and then our next one with Parks.
And so is there future agenda items?
I believe I do hear one that we definitely want to involve or invite AISD to provide y'all with some information. So Jincy and I will continue to kind of talk with y'all, especially those who have started to help us coordinate that effort. Hopefully late February, early March, because we definitely want to have some feedback before our public engagement in March. So we'll get to work on that steadfast and keep you all updated. But that would be likely another special meeting, if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Any other items that y'all want to bring back up or have a special discussion on?
Okay. All right. At this time, yeah, very good, thank you. We do need to recognize our guest who stayed this entire meeting. It's a long one, isn't it? So appreciate y'all paying attention to what's going on around here. Yes. All right. Being that there's no further business at this time, this meeting is adjourned at 8:22. Thank you.